Welcome to our Cybersafe Digest Weekly Podcast, Episode 1. Each week, we will unfold the most recent cyber attacks and will provide you with valuable insights on how to shield your business from these threats, along with practical steps and tips to enhance your cybersecurity.
Welcome to our new Cybersafe Digest, a weekly podcast. I'm Martin Roberts, Managing Director of New Ways.
I'm Toby Stevenson. I'm Chief Technology Officer at New Ways and Martin's co-host.
This podcast is all about helping businesses deal with cyber threats, making you aware of them, educating you. We're not here to go deep dive into the real deep technology stuff, which will interest proper cyber hunters or people whose main job is to look after cyber threats.
The real techie people.
The real techie people. We're here for the CEOs, the CFOs, for those people who have IT as part of their responsibility and need to be aware of what they need to do to keep themselves secure. It's a companion piece to our weekly email that goes out, the Cybersafe email. Do have a look at it. Do read through. Some stuff will be of interest to you. Some won't necessarily, but we'll always hopefully give you some insights as to what's happening in the cyber world. So, a few things this week, and the one I'd like to pick out, Toby, is to do with Boeing. They've got a attention issue.
Yeah, so one of the ransomware actor groups, Lockbit, have claimed to have breached Boeing and have stolen a whole bunch of files and are giving them a deadline of, I think, the 2nd of November to pay up or they will release the data.
And do they know what the data is?
It's difficult. So a lot of these dumps are hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes of data.
Right.
It's difficult to be able to make a judgment as to whether that is all legit data, whether it's all really interesting data, whether there's anything that's sensitive in there. It could be a whole bunch of Christmas party photographs and old print files that are of no interest whatsoever. But it could also be blueprints to the latest Boeing aeroplane.
Right. So could the threat be in future, hello company, we've got loads of data on you and we're going to release it by this date if you don't pay us this money, without any real evidence? Is that a risk? Is that a possibility?
It is, and it's a vector that has been used in the past with varying degrees of success, typically aimed at smaller businesses who don't have the resources or the understanding of what data they've got to know whether they've had a problem. They see a message on their screen that perhaps says, we've got all your data, and it's taken at face value, because how do they validate it any other way? They don't have monitoring teams. They don't have swathes of analysts and experts poring over the data to suggest that it is or it isn't a legitimate claim.
I wonder if it's a logical extension of that old ploy where somebody says, I've been filming you through your camera and I've got some compromising videos of you, pay me some money, which is entirely speculative and might just catch some people out because they feel they might have done something in front of their cameras, which is not wise.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these attacks, they are the perfect storm. It just happens to tick enough boxes to be plausible.
I've always ranked criminals. We've got state actors who spend a lot of money and resources building up huge hacking gangs and going after countries' infrastructure. We've then got, criminal gangs who are after making lots of money. And we've got lone people who do it out of interest, and some people who do it because they're too lazy to break into houses or they're slightly more clever than that. Are we going to have a whole new bunch of criminals who are just too lazy to do any hacking or actually any stuff at all?
It's possible. I mean, some ransomware actors, to make their operations more efficient, don't even bother encrypting the files. They just corrupt them.
Yeah, sure.
And so there is no decryptor to pay. It's much quicker than encrypting files.
Yeah. And
you don't have to have an after-sales department to help people unlock their files, which a lot of these gangs will have. They will have people that will help you unlock them. If you pay your ransom, it's good business to deliver upon what you say. And people like Lockbit are actually fairly honourable as far as these types of people go, because they tend to tell the truth, with what they've got and what they're going to do with it.
So they're the good baddies.
Well, they are the ones that do what they say and say what they mean.
Okay, then we've got the bad baddies who never meant to do it in the first place.
Yeah, all those that have no intention of giving you any money back, and it's a smash and grab. So the ransomware actors that will encrypt your files and sell you the decryption tool.
Yeah.
There is another group that will just trash your files and pretend there's a decryptor tool, and then when you give them the money, they just disappear.
Okay, and then I suppose there's another group which is potentially the incompetent baddies who think they're going to do the right thing, but just can't.
Yeah, and there's two flavours of those incompetent baddies, if that's what we want to call them. There are the ones that, with all the best of intentions, will offer a decryptor and it won't decrypt.
Oh dear.
There are also the ones that use really poor encryption and it's really easy just to undo it. And there is a litany of tools out there on the internet. Some of the big security vendors build these libraries of common decryptors so that if you get hit by ransomware XYZ, you can go and see if there is already a freely available decryptor that they've got, which they've used from previous explorations to unencrypt without having to pay the ransom.
Okay. I guess it goes without saying, for our audience, for the people who are hopefully listening to this and follow our weekly Cybersafe email, is there's basic stuff you can do, which lessens the threat. And, we talk about this quite a lot, Toby, and we were at an industry event a couple of weeks ago, CompTIA, where they mentioned about MFA and the power that has as a single activity to improve your security stance. Do you want to expand a bit on that?
Yeah, MFA is a really, really important thing to do if you're not doing it already. It essentially helps you validate your identity before you log onto the system. So with a username and password or single factor authentication, we have something that we know, which is our username and a password, or our email address and password. Somebody else can also know that and log on as you. So MFA, multi-factor authentication, adds an additional authentication layer based around something that you have. So it's something that is specific to your physical person. So it's often an app on your phone.
Yeah.
People are not separated from the phones these days very often. So once you've put in that thing that you know, which is your username and password, you also have to validate that you are you by using something that you've got.
Yeah. And I think that what was really interesting, actually, the one takeaway I from that for me was the fact of how powerful that is. They say it blocks a huge amount of attempts.
Yeah, Microsoft did a survey a couple of years ago. They said something like high 90% of attacks that they see would have been mitigated through MFA.
MFA is one of the things that we do as standard. And we encourage our customers to do. In fact, it's almost a condition of doing business with us, because we know how strong it is and how it reduces the surface. And whenever you introduce MFA to any business for the first time, there's a lot of resistance about it. But actually, the power it has just outweighs all the pain that you may think it's going to give you.
Yeah, there seems to be a misconception that is actually going to interfere with people doing their work, and every time they try to use something, they're going to have to get their phone out and accept a prompt or type of code, and that's not the case at all. It's actually very low friction when it's implemented properly, and it offers a massive increase in protection for the environment.
Absolutely. I quite agree. Okay, so the one thing then for this week's advice is, if you haven't got MFA installed, enacted, do it now. Reach out to your MSP, to your IT department. Reach out to us, and we'll help you through that process. It makes such a powerful difference to the way you protect yourselves and your business.
Absolutely, and that advice extends into people's personal systems, their logins to LinkedIn and to their personal email and to Amazon and Facebook. All of those things, they're all avenues that attackers want to try and gain access to, and enabling MFA on those systems makes a massive difference to the integrity of that login.
So 2 takeaways this week are, firstly, check that a threat is actually genuine before paying out any money. Reach out to the people who can help you, and to make sure you're not being taken for a bit of a ride for no effort.
Yeah, and there's a whole other podcast around that.
And we'll do that absolutely very soon. And then the other takeaway is MFA. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to this first episode, which we hope will be the first of many. If you like it, click like or whatever you do on these podcasts. And if you're not signed up to our weekly email already, do sign up. I suspect if you're listening to this, you have done. Great that you came along. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Toby.
Yeah, thanks, Martin.
There you have it. We've reached the end of our first episode of Cybersafe Digest Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and to make sure you don't miss out on our future episodes, hit that subscribe button on Spotify, Apple or Google Podcast. For more cybersecurity wisdom and resources, head over to our website at cybersafe.co.uk. cybersafe.co.uk. See you next Thursday.